The adventurous story begins by showing a lady named Edith, who believes in ghosts and spirits, thinking that they exist in some form. However, suddenly, Edith starts remembering a time from her childhood when her mother had suddenly passed away. No one knew the reason for her mother's death. Everyone had gathered for her mother's funeral, paying their respects. While all this was happening, Edith was asleep in her room when a dark shadow approached her, which was none other than her mother. Edith's mother appeared and lovingly told her to stay away from Crimson Peak. Edith was extremely frightened by this and began to scream, but in the next moment, the dark shadow, or rather her mother's spirit, disappeared. Nevertheless, Edith had taken to heart the advice her mother had given her since childhood to stay away from Crimson Peak. 15 years pass, and Edith has grown up considerably. Her father is a successful businessman and very wealthy. However, despite all the comforts, Edith had a desire to write novels. She enjoyed writing various fictional stories. For this reason, Edith went to a publisher with one of her novels, hoping to get her stories published. The publisher started reading Edith's novels but was very disappointed. He explained to Edith that her stories mostly included ghosts and spirits, and he could not publish such things. He suggested that if she wrote love stories or romantic content, he might consider publishing it. However, Edith did not like this idea at all and wrote only what she felt. Due to these reasons, the publisher rejected her idea. When Edith went home to meet her father, he gifted her a beautiful pen so that she could write her novels and become a prominent person. Edith decided that she would work in her father's company and also write novels. She truly enjoyed writing different types of novels but was not very popular at the moment. Now, a man named John arrives at Edith's father's office, saying that he needs to discuss some business-related matters with her father. Edith immediately goes to call her father and his friends. When she returns to John, she finds that John has already looked at her novels and is praising them, saying how excellent they are. Edith is delighted, as it is the first time someone is praising her novels. After John's appointment is fixed, he begins a meeting with Edith's father and his business friends. John presents a business idea involving a machine that can extract water from the ground. He demonstrates his idea very effectively and says he needs investors for his project, assuring that the project will work well. However, after considerable thought, Edith's father rejects John's project. He explains that when he reviewed previous data, he saw that John had proposed the project in several places, but it was rejected for various reasons. Therefore, he questions why he should trust that this project will be successful now, given that John has no proof to support his claim. As a result, John's offer is rejected. Meanwhile, Edith's father is shown getting ready to go to a party. Edith approaches her father, suggesting that he should consider investing in John's project because she thinks it has potential. However, Edith's father explains that business decisions are not based on emotions. He does not want to lose money by investing in projects without sufficient proof. This is the reason he turned down John's project. Edith's father then heads out to the party with his friends. Edith, not feeling like going to the party, stays home to finish her novel. After a while, Edith suddenly feels that someone is at the door. Edith is trying to open the door, which gradually creaks open. Outside, she sees the spirit of her mother. Edith is terrified and quickly shuts the door, but her mother's spirit manages to enter and begins to scare her. The spirit tells Edith once again that she must stay away from Crimson Peak. Edith still cannot understand the meaning of what her mother's spirit is warning her about. Suddenly, a servant informs Edith that a man named John has come to see her. John begins to talk to Edith and convinces her that they should attend the party her father is hosting. Edith, who has a liking for John, agrees to go to the party with him. At the large party, John's sister, Dana, is seen playing the piano and entertaining everyone while they dance. John asks Edith to dance, and they begin dancing together affectionately. However, Edith's father becomes suspicious of John. He does not understand why John wants to be so close to their family despite having rejected his project. Edith's father instructs a spy to gather information about John and his sister Dana, to find out where they come from and what they do. The spy sets out immediately to collect this information. Meanwhile, Edith's friend, a doctor, calls her to his house and advises her to stay away from John and Dana, expressing that he does not have a good feeling about them and that there may be something suspicious behind their actions. In a large garden, John is seen asking Dana for a ring, assuring her that everything will be fine. Dana hesitates, saying she wants the ring back later. John takes the ring and goes to the party where Edith's father has invited him. John plans to propose to Edith with the ring, but before he can do that, Edith's father calls both John and Dana to speak with them privately. They are taken to separate chambers for the conversation. Edith's father tells them that he has complete information about where they come from and what their work is. Essentially, he implies that John and Dana are deceitful and are trying to trap his daughter for property. Edith's father does not want this at all, so he gives John and Dana a check and tells them to leave his daughter alone and go home immediately. John and Dana, unable to refuse such a large sum, decide to accept the offer. However, Edith's father tells John that before he leaves, he must break Edith's heart. John is forced to do this intentionally, so he publicly announces that he has to return urgently and will never come back. Hearing this, Edith becomes extremely angry and runs away. John later goes after her and tells her that she does not understand love or the pain it brings. He says that she will never experience the difficulties of love and should just stick to writing ghost stories. This deeply upsets Edith, and she slaps John. She becomes very angry with him and never wants to see his face again. John, having taken all the money, leaves with his sister Dana. Edith's father believes that by doing this, he and his family will be safe. One day, while Edith's father is in the bathroom refreshing himself, he hears some noises from behind and goes to check. In the next moment, an unknown entity attacks him, brutally beating him. The attacker continuously slams Edith's father's head against the basin, ultimately killing him. Meanwhile, John writes a letter to Edith, revealing the truth. He explains that Edith's father had given him the letter to do these things so that he could leave her life forever. Despite his poor condition, John accepted the money, but he could not stop loving her. He had loved her from the very first moment. And I will always continue to do so. Edith couldn't understand what to do, so she immediately went to the hotel where John was staying. However, the reception informed her that John had already left. Edith, feeling very distressed, started to walk away when she suddenly saw John right in front of her. John embraced Edith and said that he had sent his sister away but couldn't leave because he loved her. They both then expressed their love for each other. At that moment, Edith's lawyer arrived and informed her that her father had passed away. Edith hurried to the hospital with John and saw her father's dead body. However, they still didn't know how her father had died. Edith was deeply saddened, but despite the grief, she arranged for her father's funeral. After all this, without much thought, Edith married John. John took the ring he had borrowed from his sister, Dana, and gave it to Edith, and then took her to his palace in London. As they arrived, one of John's servants congratulated them and mentioned that their wedding had taken place years ago. Edith, hearing this, wondered what he was talking about, but John distracted her and took her inside the palace. The palace was very old, the roof was broken, the floors were scattered, and there was darkness everywhere. As soon as Edith entered, she felt as if someone was watching her. While exploring the palace, she saw the shadow of a woman going up in the lift. Edith followed her and told John about it, but John dismissed it, saying it must be her imagination. He advised her to never go to the basement, as it was very filthy and she wouldn't be able to tolerate it. Edith understood this and then met John's sister, Dana. However, Dana did not seem happy to see Edith. She greeted her in a very formal manner and welcomed her. After Edith had completed all the formalities, she went to freshen up. While she was in the bathroom, she felt a dark shadow approaching her from behind. It was none other than a dangerous ghost trying to attack her. However, when Edith turned around, the shadow suddenly vanished. John then brought Edith some drink that he had mixed something into. Without suspecting anything, Edith drank it and went to sleep. In the middle of the night, Edith started hearing a song being played. She went to the hall area and listened carefully to the music being played by Dana. Dana told Edith many things and showed her photos of her parents. However, Dana also warned Edith never to meet John at night. Edith couldn't understand why his sister was saying this. The next day, we see the doctor who had received the checkbook with John's last name written on it. This led the doctor to suspect that John might be responsible for Edith's father's death. Later, when John was working, Edith came to talk to him. But at that moment, Dana also arrived with some food and drink, which she had mixed with something. Edith was confused about what was happening to her. That night, while Edith was asleep, she heard some noises. When she went to investigate, she saw many cans filled with food items. Suddenly, a ghost emerged from the ground and moved rapidly towards Edith to harm her. Unable to tolerate this, Edith quickly entered the lift and headed towards the basement. This was the same basement John had warned her never to enter. Upon reaching the basement, Edith began exploring the area. She soon came across a small cage with the name Enola written on it. Edith didn't know what Enola meant, but she continued to thoroughly examine everything in the basement. She noticed that the keys for the cage labeled Enola were the ones she had seen with Dana, but Dana had refused to give them up. The next day, Edith went to Thomas's workplace to explain everything that had happened, how a dangerous ghost had tried to attack her and how she had managed to escape. However, John seemed to ignore her concerns. He told Edith not to pay attention to these matters and deliberately injured his hand in a machine to distract her. While Edith was attending to John's wound, he mentioned that his machine was working well, and he expressed his dislike for the Crimson Peak area. Hearing this word, Edith remembered her mother's warnings about avoiding Crimson Peak and started fearing that she might have made a mistake coming here. Meanwhile, the doctor met with the lawyer, who had serious doubts about John, suspecting him of being involved in Edith's father's death. The lawyer advised the doctor to meet with the investigator who had gathered information on John and Dana on Edith's father's request. The investigator could provide more details about them. Back at Edith's place, she was sleeping in her bed when she suddenly heard many noises in the middle of the night. She felt that a spirit was present in her room. Edith quickly got up and asked the spirit to show itself by holding her hand. Soon, something grabbed her hand and pulled her down, causing her significant pain. Edith then moved slowly towards the bathroom and saw a spirit in the bathtub with severe marks on its face. The spirit gradually emerged from the bathtub and attacked Edith, repeatedly stating that her death was written by her own hands. Edith screamed loudly and came into the hall where John and his sister Dana were present. Edith was saying that the evil spirit was after her, but John and Dana reassured her, saying it might be her imagination and that nothing like that existed there. They quickly made Edith comfortable and sent her back to her room to sleep. John and Dana then moved aside, and Dana told John that no one should find out about this incident. They decided to get Edith's signatures on the property papers as soon as possible. John agreed with his sister's plan. The next day, John took Edith to a post office where some letters had arrived for them. Edith took both letters but, as they were leaving, a severe storm approached, forcing them to spend the night at the same hotel. They were closer than ever and spent a good time together. Meanwhile, the doctor was shown meeting with the investigator, gathering information about John and Dana. The investigator revealed that John had been previously married multiple times, which was why Edith's father had been against him marrying his daughter. The doctor learned many things about John from the investigator. After spending a day at the hotel, Edith and John returned to their mansion. Edith told Dana about their time at the hotel and how they had spent quality time together. Dana, however, became quite angry and threw all the snacks on the plate onto the floor. Edith was confused by Dana's sudden change in behavior, but Dana quickly changed the subject, saying she was just worried about them. Suddenly, Edith noticed several keys on the table, one of which was labeled Enola. She took the key along with her 2 letters and went to her room. First, she read one of the letters, which were property papers. Edith wanted the property to go to John so they could live comfortably, but before signing, she read the second letter, which was about Enola. Edith, without signing any documents, went down to the basement and used the key to open the cage. Inside the cage, she found 3 parcels, each labeled with different locations. Upon recalling, Edith realized that these locations were connected to places where John had conducted his projects and applied for business deals. How all these things were related would become clear soon. Meanwhile, Dana noticed that the key labeled Enola was missing from the keyring. Dana guessed that Edith must have stolen the key. Consequently, Dana hurried to find Edith. Edith quickly closed all the basement doors and came upstairs, pretending to be unwell. Dana left the remaining keys behind and went to get some medicine. Taking advantage of the situation, Edith inserted the Enola key into the lock. When Dana returned and saw all the keys together, she realized that Edith might have discovered a lot of things. Dana wanted to complete their process as soon as possible. Edith examined the 3 parcels closely and realized that John had previously married 3 times, and one of those names was Enola. John had a pattern of marrying these women and then killing them. The drinks being given to Enola were not ordinary, they were poisoned. Soon, Edith began to bleed from her mouth, becoming very weak and trying to escape. However, a severe snowstorm outside made it nearly impossible for her to leave easily. Therefore, Edith returned inside and fainted due to extreme weakness. A short while later, Dana appeared before Edith and tried to feed her some soup. Edith suspected that the soup might be poisoned, so she refused to eat it. However, Dana deliberately continued to feed her, knowing that the food was poisoned. When John saw Edith's condition, he approached his sister and said that he couldn't bear to see Edith in such a state. Dana then convinced John that if they didn't take drastic measures, they would be caught and face execution. To hide their truth, they had to kill Edith. John, feeling entirely helpless, agreed. Meanwhile, the doctor who had been conducting a deep investigation was heading towards John's mansion. Despite discovering all the secrets, Edith couldn't escape from the mansion. As she returned inside, she saw the same spirit again, but this time it was holding a baby. Edith immediately asked if the spirit's name was Enola and what had happened to her. The spirit of Enola pointed towards a room, and Edith followed the direction. Inside, a dark reality was revealed. John and his sister Dana were extremely close. This was why Dana had been so furious when she found out that Edith and John had stayed at the hotel. Edith, enraged by what she saw, tried to escape, but Dana pursued her and snatched the ring from her hand. Dana then pushed Edith down from the first floor. Though Edith did not die from the fall, she sustained an injury to her leg. The next day, when Edith woke up, the same doctor, who was her friend, was treating her. He informed her that her leg bone was broken, so she couldn't walk properly. Noticing that the ring was missing from Edith's hand, the doctor realized that something serious had happened. He stood by Edith and began to protect her, revealing the truth about John and Dana. The doctor explained that the siblings were notorious murderers who had killed their mother solely for the sake of property. Now that he had understood everything, he vowed to get justice for Edith by bringing the siblings to justice through the lawyer. The doctor then helped Edith up and prepared to take her away from the mansion. But just then, Dana attacked the doctor and seized Edith. She ordered John to kill the doctor, although John did not want to do so. Nonetheless, he injured the doctor slightly in front of his sister. John then took the wounded doctor to the basement and imprisoned him before leaving to deal with Edith. Dana, who was now free to do as she pleased, began to force Edith to sign the property papers. Dana had no other option and Edith was now completely at her mercy. Dana told Edith that their mother had discovered her relationship with John, which is why she had to kill her. Dana had deliberately arranged for John to marry wealthy women, but none of those marriages had worked out because the machine Dana was using never functioned properly. Now it was Edith's turn, and Dana was pressing her to sign the papers. Although Edith signed the property papers, she asked Dana who had killed her father. Dana bluntly confessed that she had also committed that murder. Furious and heartbroken, Edith attacked Dana with her pen, severely wounding her. Seizing the opportunity, Edith fled. However, she encountered John on the way and wanted to attack him, but he tried to reason with her, saying that everything he did was under his sister's orders and that he still loved her. John even guided Edith to the basement, telling her that her friend was still alive there and that they could escape together. Edith quickly made her way to the basement. Meanwhile, John burned the signed property papers and told Dana that he couldn't betray Edith. Dana asked John if he had fallen in love with Edith, to which John answered yes. Enraged by this revelation, Dana immediately attacked and killed her own brother. Although she felt immense regret afterward, Dana was driven by anger and set out to finish Edith as well. Edith, meanwhile, was desperately trying to escape with her friend from the mansion. However, a fierce battle ensued between them, with Dana severely injuring Edith. But Edith was not one to give up easily. She fought back using whatever weapons she could find. Just then, John's spirit appeared, and Dana became highly emotional, moving towards him. Seizing this perfect opportunity, Edith attacked Dana from behind, repeatedly striking her head until Dana was defeated. With Dana gone, Edith had completely escaped from the mansion and vowed never to return to Grim Peak. This place had been trying to communicate its malevolent presence through her mother's spirit for years. This scene echoed Edith's initial statement about knowing a lot about ghosts and their reality. The spirits of Dana and John remained trapped within the mansion. Months later, back at her home, Edith wrote a book about her experiences. The book became quite famous and was well received, as it also included the love story between her and John. And thus, our story comes to an end.